So some of us on this path can have a big firework awakening inside of the system, isn't it true? You've either experienced that yourself or you've heard it anecdotally. Now, this is certainly not the quickest path, and there are a few warnings maybe that we want to talk about and things that you're going to experience if you do go through a firework awakening. So if you're interested in this, then by all means stick around. Now, I know there's lots of stuff on the internet out there, and a lot of it is wrong. They are talking sometimes about Kundalini can be very, very dangerous, isn't it? And it's like, yeah, I mean, it can be destructive, but I don't think it can be dangerous per se. People are going to disagree with me, and they're more than welcome to, whatever, do what you want. But I also recognise that people are reading blog posts and that written by people who don't have a full understanding of this, and then they're projecting their fear onto you, and then you're taking that on because they haven't embodied the teachings that they're teaching. And that's why you need to make sure you're finding somebody who's qualified to teach you, otherwise, or at least somebody with some experience, isn't it? Because otherwise you don't know what you're reading. That's like going to the doctors, which is a highly personal process, isn't it? And asking, instead of a doctor, going to random people and asking what the problem is inside of my body. This highly personal touch is lost, and also if you can't see the person and understand their credentials, then you don't know really where they're coming from, what their intention is, and what it is that they're trying to do. And so a lot of religious stuff can come into it too, because the Christians, for some reason, start calling this energy a serpent energy, and they're talking about the serpent and biting of the apple and stuff, and all of that's got to do with ego, not the energy. Think about it, isn't it? All of these stories are symbolic inside of ourselves. Serpent comes and offers the apple. Or what's the serpent? Ego. What's the apple? Well, something that feels like it's going to taste nice when I bite it, but actually doesn't, and causes that fall from grace, that fall from heaven. So as soon as I'm believing something of ego, what happens internally to me? I fall. I'm not in heaven anymore. I've fallen from my grace, isn't it? This is all that story is talked about, but it's very misunderstood in the Christian belief because it's very... Well, we don't need to talk about it here because I'll just annoy people. So let's talk about the main problems with a firework awakening. One, you think that the work is done, and so you don't need a teacher, isn't it? Sometimes we have a big experience inside of ourselves. Lots of information comes into the system, and that is wonderful, scary, but wonderful, as we recognise, wow, I'm so much more than I first thought I was. But in that sense, then we can become a little bit arrogant, isn't it? And say, wow, I did this on my own. No, you didn't. I did this on my own. No, you didn't. Well, I did this on my own. No, you didn't. And now I can do the rest of the journey on my own. Then it's like, yeah, cool. But if you want, let's say you're a treasure searcher. Well, if you don't have a map, it's definitely going to take you longer, isn't it? Somebody's walked there before and put the map, so then you know where to go, isn't it? But if you don't have a map or a guide or somebody to help you on this journey, that's part of the arrogance. We're like, no, I'll do better on my own. And it's like, no, you really won't, unless you're a very, 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 very rare being who's brought in a very tiny amount of karma, and then they might work that out on their own. But if you're just a normal everyday Joe like me, and you've come into this journey with a big blast, then you need to find a guide, someone who's been through that experience before, and take it or leave it. And that's my advice. Whether you take it or not, that's up to you, isn't it? It's like going to the doctors again. Like, doctor might tell you, you're going to have a serious problem if you don't do this. Whether you listen to him or not, agree with him or not, doctor doesn't care. But he's just trying to do the best for you. Whether you take that or not is completely up to you. That's your karma. Second point, but before we do that, if you are interested in taking this next step, let's say something has happened to you and you want to really get the right training and the right sadhana inside of the system and really begin shifting the trajectory of your life and taking charge of your destiny, then you can sign up for the Freedom Blueprint down below. It's a paid product, that's why you have to apply. We have to make sure we're right for each other, but it's there if you want to do it. The application form is, of course, free to fill out. 2, you can have an unholy arrogance because the ego's grabbed hold of the experience. Once I had this big firework awakening inside of me, I came back off of my holiday. It happened on a holiday, and I came back into real life, met all my old friends again, and I was a horrible piece of, because there was such an arrogance in the system, because I had this amazing God-worthy, experience, or whatever the hell the ego was calling it back then. And it's like, yeah, I'm right, because the ego's grabbed it. I am so right about everything. And God, did I turn into a dirty, dirty young man. But that was part of the process that was recognized that I needed to grow up out of. And so I had to find a teacher. Because you can't keep going that way, because that won't work, and it's not appropriate, and it's disgusting, really, isn't it? But we don't know it, because we don't know about ego yet, because we've just had a bigger experience, and therefore we get arrogant, and that tends to be the path that people seem to take. It's really hard to break them out of that, but some who are willing to come with humility will be able to do that. Luckily, that was what I did. And anyway, number 3. Oh yeah, if you have this firework awakening, you are going to become supremely attached to the highs inside of ourselves, and then become very depressed when there's a low. And I think that's natural after the experience, and this is why some people can call it dangerous. It's not dangerous, it's just like that has to happen for you to understand. It's going to mean you're going to have a very wobbly few years, but that's your destiny. There's no danger in destiny. The only danger, I suppose, in destiny is not heeding the call and respecting the experience that's happened, and recognizing perhaps I need to now do more work. And then that's cool, then all is well and good in that experience. So this attachment to highs, though, can lead to chasing highs in the many various ways that we might do in our life, and we might recognize this begin to become quite a thing inside of ourselves. We are chasing highs in, you'll know what kind of ways, and that is not helpful, and it will be leaving the prana in such a way in the system that nothing really profound is going to happen. Some things might, because this energy is powerful, isn't it? And it will, but this won't be helping. To help, we have to streamline and simplify our life and get our energies in the right way to allow something like that to really take hold and have a really lasting effect on us. If we're doing lots of silly things, chasing highs, they tend to have a detrimental effect on the energy. So we're definitely not helping the experience or what might be happening inside of ourselves. Nonetheless, we still do it, and it is what it is. It is what it is. You'll still get where you need to be. It'll just be slower. So, 4th and final one, you will have guaranteed, hands down, 100%, nobody gets away with this. If you've had a firework awakening, you will have a spiritual ego. This spiritual ego is very hard to detect because it's got a spiritual visor, it's got a spiritual lens, and so it feels like truth, but actually it's not truth. And sometimes it can come across as God's voice, and actually it's not God's voice, it's just the ego's voice with God's name on it now. And so the real voice of God is silence. And so you have to watch out for this, isn't it? And that's taken me a good 5 years to come out of the experience of that spiritual ego, that spiritual identity. It doesn't have to take that long, but we have to be really aware and really not in this mildly, this journey not into our sadhana mildly. We have to be into our sadhana in a great way, in a very focused way, to be able to wake up out of that one. And so yeah, there's that. All right, so that's what I've got for you. If you liked it, let me know. If this is something you like me talking about, then please do let me know, because I must tell you, lately I just feel like I've lost the connection with what I'm putting out there, because the video views started going down, and I'm sat there and I'm thinking maybe they don't want to hear about this stuff or whatever. So you tell me, what is it you like? What are you wanting? Is this it? Because I have no idea. I just sit down and serve, and sometimes it's like, well, but is that serving? Because I want to make an impact, and if I'm not doing that, then I sometimes get a little bit sad in the background, and that's just letting you in on my personal life. So there's that. If you like it, great. If you haven't subscribed, and this is the first time we're meeting, please click the subscribe button. We never know if we'll meet again. You can always unsubscribe, but don't you want to be in the loop? And press the bell icon if you're wanting to get every single video that I make out to you. I think that's part of the thing. With this is like people haven't pressed that, and so they're not knowing when new videos are coming, and then I'm getting hidden under loads of other videos. I don't know what's happening. Somebody can tell me in the comments, because they'll know more about it than me. Or maybe I'm just really bad at my job. Who knows? Maybe you'll tell me that too. Right, that'll do. Love you lots, and namaste.